apologize.
Oh, it's okay. We'll work on that. He's in good hands now. He's in good hands now. Yeah. Yeah, we just have to be careful which circles we tell that in.
Best person to ask on that is probably yeah. Well, like, see, I was especially if there was on my street, but like, just saying, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, so yeah. So like, I'm just flying to town every single day. I have pressure problems 127, 131. Yeah, like I'd probably do 127 first.
Betty Ann's here.
Yeah.
I'll just ask him.
Got to see if I can find the word. Change course.
Let's roll, people. I love this list.
We apologize for the delay.
Just
We're
gotta
just
wait for
waiting
Dwight.
for a couple of people to show up.
He'll be here shortly.
I'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of our business is public hearing, bylaw 1417 land use bylaw, and it's an amendment. And if we could, to amend the land use designation of plan 5894P, block 16, lot 14 and 15, which is 121 Wally Lane, from an R1 single detached residential district to an R2X medium density attached housing district in the downtown overlay district. And could we have confirmation of the notices from the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Fisher?
Yes. Is this on?
I think
Yep,
we
you
are.
are.
A public notice concerning this bylaw was published in the Strathmore Times on the 21st, or on the 24th and 31st of October. And notice of the public hearing was also sent to 14 adjacent or adjoining landowners. We have a map if you're interested. The planning department received an application to redesignate lots 14 and 15, block 16, plan 5894P at 141 Waddy Lane from R1 single detached residential district to R2X medium density attached housing district. The subject property consists of 225 by 120 foot lots with a total area of 6,000 square feet. And there are separate certificates of title for each of the lots. Currently, there's a single detached dwelling located on the property, and the applicant has indicated that they wish to rezone the property in order to build a fourplex. The adjacent properties in yellow are designated R1, and the properties in dark brown are currently designated a high-density R3 residential district. As noted, we contacted 14 adjacent property owners by mail. At the time of the writing of this report, we had not received any written responses, but we have subsequently received 2 letters, one from Jason Montgomery and another one from Brian and Linda Cole. They are added to the back of your public hearing package. In summary, the letter by Jason Montgomery states, while I support the town of Strathmore's decision to bring higher density housing to the downtown, I have to object to the redevelopment of any properties on Waddy Lane at this time. My objection to development on Waddy Lane is due to the fact that water pressure on the street is already so low, using more than one fixture at a time renders both unusable. With the addition of more homes on the street, this problem will likely be made worse and cause the residents of Waddy Lane's quality of life to be diminished further. Such time as the water system in the area has been upgraded to sufficiently handle the higher density, I would have no further objection to this change going through. A similar letter was written by Brian and Linda Cole. We are gravely concerned about the water infrastructure in our neighborhood. Our water service is currently only barely adequate, and there are already new developments in progress with no apparent infrastructure improvements in sight. Last month, we experienced a backup in our sewer line. The plumber who did the work could see no reason for the backup except perhaps our lack of water pressure to flush the lines. It takes approximately 13 minutes to fill up our bathtub, even though our pipes are relatively new. In summer, if we water at the same time as our neighbors, our sprinkler diameter will be as small as 5 to 6 feet. Oscillating sprinklers and expandable hoses will not work. We feel the water issues need to be considered before redevelopment in the area are approved. And then I do not know if notifications of adjacent landowners was given. We received none. Feel this is the only way to hear from residents and effectively take citizens out of the loop. So this is Brian and Linda Cole at 126 Waddy Lane. The applicant, through Mr. Robert Benedictson, has submitted an applicant submission, and the key points of that submission are outlined in the report. They're also attached to the agenda package. Key points are the existing structure on the property is tired. The applicant believes that there's a demand for adult-only complexes, recognizing we don't regulate the age of people who live in any complex. The applicant believes the location is suitable for this type of complex with access to downtown amenities, and councils and residents' past concerns with multiplex construction in the downtown North District have been reviewed, and the following information is provided. Parking would, the site would allow for adequate off-street parking in the rear. Privacy, the structure to be constructed would be a bi-level building and would not be any higher than existing homes in the area. And lastly, adjacent properties to the rear of the subject property are high-density dwellings. Therefore, the addition of a fourplex would not overwhelm the area. At the present time, no development permit application has been submitted, but the applicant has submitted a site plan in support of the application. Okay. Is it thinking? Well, if we can't have it up, I would just refer you to the agenda package that shows the site plan. Proposed fourplex for 121 Waddy Lane, Strathmore, Alberta. And as shown on the site plans, there are 4 units with a 5-foot side yard and 6 parking stalls, angled parking stalls off the rear. That meets the off-street parking requirement of the bylaw. The bylaw is also specifically worded that if the site adjoins a street and the visitor parking can be accommodated on the street adjacent to the site, then that's acceptable. It doesn't have, the visitor parking does not have to be on the site. So given that there's 2 on-street parking stalls, then we require 1. There we go. Was thinking. A 50-foot site can accommodate 2 on-street parking stalls for visitors, while as the residents' parking is on-site off the lane. At the time of the development permit application, we would expect a site and landscaping plan, building elevations, floor plans, a site grading, site drainage, and site servicing plan, as well as related information. The design of the building will be referred to the Downtown Design Review Committee for comment. Insofar as we have a new land use bylaw, and that land use bylaw talks about a maximum density of 55 units per hectare in this district, I think it's appropriate to deal with that issue. The density on this site will exceed the maximum allowable in the R2X district, insofar as it'll be 71.8 units per hectare where the bylaw specifies 55. And issuing a development permit at the time of the development permit application will require a relaxation of that maximum allowable density. Staff are prepared to support the density relaxation for a number of reasons as stated in the report. And we believe that the 55 units per hectare probably warrants review and consideration. Here's why. First and foremost, low-density residential development is normally maxed out at 45 units per hectare. And you'll see that in practically any area structure plan. And the reason that 45 units per hectare is kind of a magic number is that if you build a half a duplex on a 50-foot lot or a duplex on a 50-foot lot, the density is 44.4 units per hectare, which is where you get the 45 units per hectare. So anything that has a 25-foot lot or 50 or 2 dwelling units on a 50 are going to give you that density. Our medium density district allows a maximum of 55, which is then a very, very narrow range of density between what's allowable, for example, for a semi-detached dwelling and what you might call medium density. Fourplexes are commonly and routinely built on 60-foot lots for no other reason that you get 6 parking stalls off the back. And that's pretty much a universal requirement, plus you have some room for garbage. That, however, what results in a density of about 60 units per hectare. And so we're already exceeding the allowable 55. And last but not least, I would submit that the 55 units per hectare works very well for traditional row housing and town housing where the units are joined only at the side. The minute that you get a 4-plex or 6-plex or 8-plex where they're joined at the side and at least on 2 sides, you're going to go well above that standard townhouse density. So those are some of the reasons that we think that this could be, a relaxation could be considered at the development permit stage. And as noted, it does meet the parking requirements, the off-street parking requirements, and there's 2 visitor parking stalls available on the street. We looked at the traffic impact of an additional 3 dwelling units on this site, recognizing that there's an existing dwelling unit so that the net increase is 3 dwelling units. And that works out to about 40 to 50 vehicle trips per day more than what would be there at the present time. And that's flagged under item 4. At the time we wrote this report, we were aware that there were concerns with fire flows along Waddy Lane. It's one of the areas identified in one of our servicing reports, I think the annexation report, that identifies as being below 60 PSI. At the time of the writing of the report, we believed that there would not be any issues with domestic water, recognizing you can't meet fire flows because the two numbers are so totally different. The amount of water that you need for fire flows is vastly larger than what you would need for domestic consumption. Now, as I noted, we have we received 2 letters that have concerns about that. In discussing the fire flow issue with the fire chief, he did not have any concerns about the fire flows for the simple reason that there is a fire hydrant. I said 20 meters in my report. It's probably closer to 16 or 17 meters from the property, which is in yellow. There's the first fire hydrant. And there's another fire hydrant over here. That's 63 meters. In a pinch, that can be connected, and 2 fire hydrants can fight that fire if needed. Now, in response to the letter that we received on Friday, we asked EPCOR to do some some hydrant testing on Waddy Lane. And on Monday, EPCOR did a flow test at hydrant 245, which is directly in front of the wheatland Lodge. So it's that fire hydrant there by the Wheatland Lodge. And they also looked at the residual pressure of the fire hydrant that's just to the west of the subject property and the residual pressure of that fire hydrant that's at the intersection of Waddy Lane and Wheatland Trail. The fire hydrant at the lodge delivered 43 liters per second, and the residual pressure at the fire hydrants on the other ends of Waddy Lane, on both ends, was still 50 psi. Now, we believe that that is probably sufficient to meet domestic needs, and I think there's probably, when we went into this, there was three assumptions as to why the water pressure on Waddy Lane would be low. There is the issue with this water line, this 100 millimeter 4-inch water line that was installed in 1951. It's either ductile iron or cast iron, and one of two things or both can happen. It'll get heavily calcified on the inside, and hence the effective diameter will be reduced, or in the alternative, and sometimes as well, the cast iron or the ductile iron will simply rust through and you'll lose pressure that way and volumes. The results, obviously the pressures are not as good as they ought to be, but they're still pretty reasonable for what's proposed under this development permit application. I should also point out that under our 10-year capital plan, the street improvement plan, that water line is scheduled for replacement in 2014. Now, there's two other considerations that might lead to reduced water pressures for residences along Waddy Lane, are two common reasons. The first would be is that the service connections leading from the residence to the water line in the street are in the same condition as the water line in the street. And if they're 3/4 inch water lines, or even maybe less, 5/8, over a 50-year period, they may have the effective diameter of a drinking straw, certainly in this neck of the woods, or they may be corroded. Another problem that often happens is that a water valve gets stuck in part, either partially open or partially closed, because of, as you turn it up and some line comes loose, it sticks in there, and you can't fully open it or close it. That, I think, is all speculation, but those are the three reasons that are commonly why you would have low water pressure. We know that there's issues with that line. As I said, it was installed in 1951, but we don't believe that there's sufficient issues to warrant refusing this application for rezoning. There is policy support. As council's no doubt aware, the downtown overlay district has a number of purpose statements. One of them is that the downtown shall be divided into 3 areas that have unique features and are defined as illustrated in figure 3. The downtown north shall be an area predominantly residential with continued increase in density and future conversion of single family homes to professional offices and personal service uses. The staff recommendation is that the MDP and the downtown overlay district support the redesignation. There are no significant servicing constraints affecting the property, recognizing that the water line will be replaced in the foreseeable future, and the impacts from the proposed redevelopment are manageable, recognizing that off-street parking requirements are met in full, and that the development permit will be reviewed by the Downtown Review Committee, the Town Development Permit application. The staff recommendation is that the council proceed with second and third reading.
Do we want to ask questions or hold our questions for later? Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I appreciate the report very much. I just wondered if there is increased development in this area along Waddy Lane, as the density increases, will it impact on the water situation?
Our best guess is that 3 additional dwelling units will not.
so it's something that we should consider in the future in terms of
Absolutely.
future development.
I think
I want to say for the record, in downtown South, where we live, there's both 3/4 on the main, 5/8 coming in, both east and west and north and south. And my husband is very fond of telling anyone who will listen to him that he has to run around in the shower to get wet. And if you know my husband, that's a remarkable visual. And so what I also will say in addition to that is that we have a lot of development, a lot of high density development around us. It hasn't made a difference at all in the water pressure at all.
I think the numbers are what they are. 47 liters per second, I believe, is what. 43 liters per second. And residual 50 psi.
Councillor Sobel?
I think he was
What's
first.
okay? Councillor Fields, you were first.
Oh, I was just going to add something in addition to Councillor Peterson. Mr. Fisher, you mentioned that that line in front of that, in that street is to be replaced in 2014. Did you mean 2015?
2017, I believe.
2017. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you said 2014.
Yeah, it says.
Oh, did I?
It's
Oh, dear.
2017.
It's 2017.
Sorry, I
Okay,
apologize.
thank you.
Anything further?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Sobel?
Thank you. And just in regards to those lines, just for clarification, the main line running along the road, of course, is our responsibility, the town's responsibility. But the lines running from that line to the residents would be a residential responsibility?
Yes, there's that fine line between what happens between the water shut-off valve, the curb stop, and the main line. It's one of the reasons that it's very, very prudent at the time of redevelopment to replace everything from the water main right to the house along with the water shut-off valve.
Right.
If you don't, you're
Potentially not fixing
you're
anything.
not fixing anything.
Because the problem could be in the sideline as well.
I would anticipate, but I think that would be something that the contract would identify is when that water line is replaced. I would assume, but not necessarily guarantee at this point, that the service connection to the water shutoff valve or the curb stop would be replaced. It would only make sense, because otherwise you're just digging up the street again. And
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bluffler?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Werner. So that main water line is going to be replaced in 2017, which is
That's
3
the-
summers from now.
that's the projected replacement date in the 10-year capital plan, the street improvement plan, and I apologize for misspeaking.
It's okay. Thank you.
And you're fairly confident, 99% confident with these numbers you're giving us with the 50 PSI on Wadi Lane, that'll sustain this development?
I can read the letter to you if you wish.
Yeah, please.
This is from Derek Luck at EPCOR, and it was sent on November 4th, 2014 at 11:23 a.m., which was Monday. It says, "Hi, Jesse. Today we did a flow test at hydrant 245 beside Wheatland Lodge, and the flow rate was 680 gallons per minute, which works out to 43 liters per second. Also, during the flow test, hydrant 196, which is the one on Wheatland and Wadi, and 180, which is the one just west of the residence, had a residual pressure of 50 psi. If you need any other testing, please let us know. Yours truly." And I have some cheat notes on here. But
Well, no, I'm not concerned about exactly what the letter says.
that's what we said. And
What's causing it? Further questions? The question that I have is, you'd indicated that with this new development, we would go up to, was it 71?
yeah,
As
it's
opposed to
71 and a bit. Let me,
And is that assuming that all of the lots along there would go to fourplexes?
well, I think it's reasonable to suggest that all other things being equal, if we allow a fourplex on this 50-foot lot, and it's been our practice to allow fourplexes on 50-foot lots in other locations, that we will get fourplexes on 50-foot lots unless somebody wants to build a duplex. That would be a reasonable thing to expect. I can't guarantee it, but I would expect that.
And so that's where you, assuming that the other lots will go to the fourplexes, that's where you get the maximum 71, but there's no
Yeah, well,
guarantee that they will all do fourplexes.
The 71,
Units.
71 and change. Let me just, yeah, 71.8 is simply taking the size of the lot and dividing it by 4 units. You get 71.8 units per hectare. Conversely, if you build a fourplex on a 60 by 120 foot lot, you get around 60 units per hectare. I don't remember the precise number. It's really close to 60. That suggests to me that if, we can do one of two things. We can either increase the minimum density, or the maximum density allowable in the R2X district to something that's a little more conventional, or consider a separate district. If we really want traditional side-by-side townhousing, and we'd want to distinguish that from back-to-back fourplex, sixplex development, then that might warrant a different district. There tends to be a different market and a different orientation. I mean, both are grade orientated, but the row housing tends to be more family oriented, the back-to-back less so.
Any further questions?
Just
No?
one subject.
Please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to administration or to Werner, this 71.8% occupancy on a 50-foot lot that exceeds our current maximum density, does it prevent us in any way from moving forward with this change to?
No, I said in the report that staff are prepared, if council rezones this, approves this bylaw, we will grant. The density is not an issue for us, but we are letting council know that there's a disconnect here.
Okay, but there's nothing preventing us from moving forward on it in terms of legality. Thank you.
No further questions? And at this point then, thank you. And are there any persons wishing to be heard in favor of the application? Seeing none. And are there any persons wishing to be heard in opposition? Please come forward, identify yourself. Please come forward, have a chair, and just identify yourself and your address, please.
I'm Rob Benedictson. Can I just, do you want me to stand or?
No, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, I'll stand. Sorry, I'm acting as representative of the owner who was unable to speak at the public hearing here. I have come before council to request a redesignation of lot from R1 usage to R2X. I'd like to read this letter. As a long-term resident of Strathmore, I understand the direction council and town management are taking and trying to revitalize the downtown core. I believe that my request helps to maintain the new direction the town is taking. The current use of the property is an R1 zoning with a home that is quite tired. I would propose to remove the home and build in its place a 4-unit complex that I would own and lease out to other individuals. As the sole owner of the property, I would take the utmost care and pride as to whom I would allow to lease the property. My ideal tenant is an individual that is going through a transition and needs a property that is upscale, offering many amenities without the obligations that home ownership entails. I believe there is a great demand for adult-only complexes in town that would cater to older, single, married professionals, snowbirds, retirees, people downsizing, and empty nesters. An individual that would utilize our downtown businesses and all that our downtown has to offer. I believe this location is perfect for such a complex. I would be able to check references as to past behaviors and histories. If I were to merely build and sell the properties, there are more variables at play that could potentially lead to overcrowding, noise complaints, and parking issues, etc. I've taken the time to review some previous concerns of council and community members that have come up in past meetings about rezoning other lands in town. I would like to address some of those concerns in reference to my potential development. Parking. My site would allow for adequate off-street parking in the rear of the complex, which would meet the new parking regulations. And privacy, as I would be building a bi-level, the building would not be higher than a typical home built in the area already. The complex I have in mind has front and rear entrances, no side entrances, lending itself to more upscale and private design. The lot itself backs onto R3 zone property, and a fourplex would fit in nicely to the existing neighborhood. The building would not overwhelm the area, as it would blend in nicely with the already existing multifamily directly across the alley. Sorry. As the owner operator of my proposed complex, I would have a great deal of control over what happens in my complex, assuring the community that I also do not want overcrowding, multiple vehicles, or individuals that would not fit my strict criteria. Through leasing out the structure, I can impose certain restrictions on tenants and behaviors that the municipality cannot. Running a complex with multiple units means you have to be extra stringent to whom you would lease to. This would create a harmonious living environment that is conducive to the entire building and therefore the surrounding community. In closing, please favorably consider my application for redesignation from R1 to R2X. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And one last opportunity. Is there anybody that wishes to be heard in opposition? Seeing none. And then what I will do is ask if the development officer has any closing statements.
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. So I will entertain a motion from council as to whether we adjourn or recess in regards to this item.
Worship, I move the public hearing be closed.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And thank you. And the next item on our agenda is agenda amendments and adoptions. And Jay, we'll start with you. If you're ready.
I have
Councilor.
nothing, Your Worship.
Nothing. Councilor Boakland?
I have nothing, Your Worship.
Do we know if Deputy Mayor Walls was going to have any items that he was going to bring forward? No? Okay.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Councilor Fuel.
Yeah, I just had one item, and that was my consideration as a representative on the Regional Recreation Enhancement Board. I don't think I've been officially put on that committee, or we haven't addressed that officially. So that's it for me.
Okay. And where would we want to put that item in regards to adding?
Your Worship, under new business, item 8.11.
8.11? 8.9?
No.
No, oh yeah, we got the other sheet. Yes, pardon me. 8.11. Fuel. And Councilor Peterson?
I have nothing, Your Worship.
Nothing? Okay. And Councilor Walls, we are asking if there's any additions or deletions to the agenda.
Worship, I have nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Your Worship, I would move that we, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Your Worship, item 12.1, invitation to Lions Open House.
12.1,
Yes.
invitation. Thank you. And nothing else from administration? No? Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept the amendments.
Your Worship, I would move that we accept the agenda as amended.
All in favor? And carried. Next item on our agenda is adoption of the minutes of the October 15th regular scheduled council meeting.
Worship, I move the council adopt the October 15th, 2014 regular council meeting as presented.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Next item is adoption of the October 29th special council meeting minutes.
I would move adoption of the October 29th, 2014 special council meeting minutes.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. I've got your mic here because mine's funny. And delegations. First delegation we have is Mr. Trevor Dahl wishes to speak in regards to, oh, no, we did 29. I will apologize. We had council organizational meeting minutes, 4.2. I missed that one. Adoption of the October 15th council organizational meeting minutes.
Worship, I move to adopt those as presented.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Next item we have to bring forward is the delegation, and Mr. Trevor Dahl wishes to speak in regards to pot-bellied pigs. Would you like to come forward, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship and council members, for letting us come back and be able to speak here. My first question I have right now is, would you guys like to meet Chuckles? Chuckles here.
Chuckles is here?
Chuckles is here.
Who could ever turn that down? When would that ever happen again?
Okay. Okay. As they're getting him to bring him in, I do apologize because there was a lot of confusion starting from the very first meeting and then through to the second one where we'd requested to have a chance to speak, and then the way some more information played out after that. Through all of that, though, I did learn a very good, solid lesson in social networking, which actually became rather frightening to me. When I came home from work on that day, and everyone was like, you got to look at this. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted. However, since the very first meeting through to the second one and continue on to this meeting, there was a lot of information that did come forward and a lot of information that we didn't get to present at a timely manner. And we seem to have managed to get most of it into you right now. Since the point of the first meeting through to the second meeting, Chuckles is now registered with the National Service Animal Registry as an emotional support animal. He's also working with an organization in Edmonton, has completed his first level as a therapy animal. Upon completion of the second training he has to go to, he will actually be certified to visit hospitals, seniors' homes, and hospices for the terminally ill in the program that he's involved with on that. Okay. Looking at still on how the current bylaws read, which do read as kind of lumping everything together with poultry, fowl, bovine, equine, porcine, ruminant species, still sounds very, very livestock in its nature to me. When looking at how Statistics Canada does categorize pot-bellied pigs, they actually fall into the same category as budgies, cats, dogs. He's full grown. That's as big as he gets. You can go rub his belly if you want.
Worship, I'll pass, thank you.
Okay. At the last meeting, there was some questions that were brought forward. And a lot of the stuff we do agree with for questions that was brought forward, and then the bylaw had responded to, whereas the first one said that no pot-bellied pig would be found in any place other than the premise of the owner without the identification tag referred to or in a prior subsection. He is actually permanently microchipped for identification. We've made sure of that. It also came, so I do agree with that completely. However, under there they have is also a recommendation that the pot-bellied pig must be kept at the owner's property at all times. As you can see, he walks on a leash perfectly fine. He likes to go for walks. When he was up in Edmonton for his training, he actually would go for walks on a daily basis. I have no problem with him staying on my premises as long as, you know, when he can go for a walk the same as any dog or other pet in this town is allowed to. The potbelly pig must be inoculated yearly. All other required vaccinations should be prescribed by a licensed and accredited veterinarian. That was also in the list there too that I do agree with completely. Okay. The animal is a Vietnamese potbelly pig, will not grow to a size larger than 150 pounds. Chuckles right now weighs about 60 pounds. He's about the biggest size that you'll actually see for a true potbelly pig. To be honest, with my experience, and I've got a lot of experience with potbelly pigs, any potbelly pig that I've ever seen that's 150 pounds doesn't move farther than his bed and his food dish. I can't see any problem where there'd be an issue on trying to contain them, because you'd have to be able to get into the house to actually remove them from it. Okay. However, I would have no problem with that, agreeing to lower it down to 100 pounds. The Vietnamese potbelly pigs must have their tusks kept and filed to an appropriate length as determined by a trained professional. I've got 17 years experience as a farrier. My training is, I have training from the Olds College and also training from the Alberta Farrier College. I've trained under 2 veterinarians at the Bannock Peak Animal Hospital, which is Dr. Judith Sampson out in Bragg Creek, and Moore and Company out by Airdrie on care of feet and tusks of potbelly pigs. Okay. And no over Vietnamese potbelly pig shall allow or permit the Vietnamese potbelly pig to be at large or trespass on public or private property. I completely agree with that at any time. There were some other concerns that were brought up that I've seen people mentioning, and all of the what I'd call hellfire that came across the social networking that people were mentioning. There's some other things that I do not want to see. I don't want to see anybody breeding potbelly pigs in Strathmore. I don't want to see litters of pigs. I've been through with the rescues that I've done on potbelly pigs of having pregnant sows come into it. And it's not something I ever want to go through, and I don't want to even have it happening in a yard next to me. It's not as pretty and as cute as a lot of people might think. I do agree, as with dogs and cats, where there is limitations, that there should be no more than a limit of 2 potbelly pigs per household. The reason I am saying 2 on that one is just due to the social nature of potbelly pigs. Sometimes in a house, 2 is better than 1. Potbelly pigs have a bad habit of invading your fridge or your cupboards or anything else if left alone. So if you have 2 of them, that tends to keep them company, and they don't tend to cause any problems. From this, I hope I've covered enough, because I know you guys have received the information coming in for the letters of recommendation. We do have letters coming in from all of our neighbors that we could get in touch with that said they would have no problem with us having potbelly pigs. We also had letters come in from quite a few people throughout Strathmore, and even before the meeting that we got today, we had 3 more letters come in from other residents within support of change to the bylaw. From this point on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have some questions of Mr. Dahl? Councilor Fuel?
I don't have a question, and my mind is still open on this issue, but as far as the hellfire on social media and the letters and emails that we're getting, there's one thing I do want to say, and that is if many of them are from people who live in Calgary or High River, out of other places, I won't be considering those, because they aren't residents of our town, and many of them are from people who don't even live in our town.
No, I agree.
But my mind is still open. I just wanted to clear that part of it.
Councilor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Trevor. Yeah, there's a couple of things actually I want to discuss, and one I guess I want to be very clear, and I've stated this before, but I want to be very clear in the fact that I think that one of the reasons for the quote unquote hellfire, whatever it is you want to call it on social media, was due to the fact that at some point in just recently, the animal was identified as a service animal for your daughter, and I just want to make it very clear that when this hearing was this initial hearing took place a year ago, that we had never heard of it, and I'll be very honest with you, I'm concerned that that apparently that was the case back then, but you chose not to tell council any of that a year ago. And if you want to comment on that, I'd appreciate it.
No, I do agree with you on that. It's what it came down to at the beginning was, wanting to change the bylaw. A lot of the certification, a lot of the documentation that we now presently have, we did not have at that time. And it's just hard to defend something when you have nothing to back it up.
Okay. So just on that note, the certification of the animal with the is that the one with the National Service Animal Registry?
Yes, the NSAR.
All right. I just want to, I guess, query as to how you went about getting that Chuckles registered with the NSAR.
In some of the documentation that was sent to you, you can register an animal as a national service animal or emotional support animal with documentation coming from medical or mental professional sources. And there was some that came through to you. One was from the family doctor, which was Dr. Philippa Keegan. And then there was another letter on her sleeping that actually came from Lori Clark, which was her counselor at Brentwood Elementary, with the documentations from a mental health professional and a medical doctor is how we can get that certification done.
Okay. Whoever supplies that, they never see the animal. Is that correct?
The NSAR does not know, sorry. No.
It's something that's done on the internet.
Well, no, you have to, he does, that's why he has to participate in the program that's in Edmonton right now that he's going to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's part of that program.
Okay. And is Chuckles been spayed?
He's neutered.
I'm sorry, neutered.
Yeah. He's neutered,
It's a male. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And regarding the neighbors, I did read a few letters from neighbors that were in favor of this, but obviously this issue is before us because you have one of your neighbors is not happy with the presence of.
From my understanding, the complaint that came in was that there was a pig. It wasn't because he was causing any noise or causing any damage or causing any disturbance. It was just because there was a pig, and that was against the bylaws.
Would it shock you to hear that I've received a whole bunch of not from neighbors, but from residents in the Strathmore area are not happy about this issue?
No. Yeah, there's two sides to every story.
Well, I'm thank you, and I'm glad you bring that up, and that's I guess one of the issues I have is there are two sides to every story, and not only do we have to look at your particular situation, but we also have to look at the situation of a whole lot of other residents who have expressed concerns about that. And the only other thing that I want to talk about is a company by the name of, or an organization by the name of RASTA. Are you familiar with that?
Run by a girl by the name of Lucy. I've known them for a while. I haven't had contact with Lucy for, I'd probably say 6 or 7 years. I used to trim horses for the organization and donate my services to them and help them out with pig issues when they came up.
Do you consider them a legitimate group?
I consider them somebody that's trying to make a difference in the world in their way.
I actually want to read this because I found it. I've been doing I've done more research on pot-bellied pigs in the last 3 weeks than on a lot of other topics. But anyway, RASTA is an organization that is based out of DeWinton, Alberta, not far from here. And this lady says, over the past 10 years, I've typically had about 3 pot-bellied pigs at the RASTA sanctuary, with a new surrender coming in every year or 2. However, in the last 3 years, I've taken in over 50 new pot-bellied pigs that have nowhere else to go. Faced with certain death, the Rasta Sanctuary was the only hope for these sadly exploited creatures. The excuses are always the same. We had no idea they could get so big. The breeder guaranteed they would stay small. We didn't think he would be more than 50 pounds. She's supposed to be a quote-unquote micro-mini, and there's no such thing, apparently. We didn't realize there was so much work, or we had no idea how destructive they are. As the Rasta Sanctuary cannot serve as an endless dumping ground for potbelly pigs and other novelty pets after people eventually come to realize the extensive needs of these unique animals and their subsequent inability to provide an adequate home for them. I do my best to educate the people about not getting them in the first place. Big letters. Unfortunately, there are many unethical breeders out there that couldn't care less about the well-being of the animals they are exploiting and will use whatever underhanded and shady tactics necessary to sell. Contrary to what most potbelly pig breeders would like you to believe, there is no such thing as a micro, mini, or teacup potbelly pigs. This is a scam. It is simply a marketing tactic used by unethical breeders to sell more pigs. Miniature pigs or potbelly pigs grow to an average size of 120 pounds to 250 pounds. And I appreciate Chuckles may be an exception to that rule, or maybe you got them on a good diet. Potbelly pigs are called miniature pigs because when compared to their cousins, farm pigs, they can grow in excess of 1,000 pounds. While some breeders will declare that they have a special line or a special breed of tiny pig and guarantee that it stays small, all potbelly pigs in North America and Hawaii come from the same line. The pictures you see of tiny pigs advertised are of babies that are usually used and just a couple of days old. As starving or underfeeding potbelly pigs or any other animal for that matter will not keep them small, but rather cause deformities and serious health problems. Potbelly pigs are illegal in most cities and towns, and this includes Calgary. They're very expensive pets as they require an exotic and animal vet, and you can certainly choose to argue these points, but this is what this lady is saying. Spaying and neutering is far more costly. They require special anesthetic. They need a minimum of 4 hoof trims a year, which most farriers, horse hoof trimmers will not do. A veterinary hoof trim costs an average of $300, and that's $1,200 a year. Males grow tusks that need to be professionally maintained. They require a closely monitored diet of specialized feed, not hot grower, which is expensive and hard to find. And I'm almost finished here. They can be terribly destructive in the home and garden, as rooting is a natural pig behavior for them. They will rip up your lawn in no time. They can become quite aggressive towards other animals and people if not socialized and trained properly. They do not behave like dogs and hate being picked up, cuddled, and dressed up in costumes. They are not good pets for children or the average person, as they require a great deal of expertise. And her last statement is potbelly pigs are pigs, which are farm animals that need to live on a farm with other pigs. So another, I guess I read that just to demonstrate that there's other opinions out there in regards to potbelly pigs, and one of those opinions I think it's fair to say has come from our bylaw officer, who has been I think fairly comes with a lot of expertise in regards to animals, and certainly her latest report indicates that she continues to be not in favor of expanding this bylaw. And that's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you. Other questions? Deputy Mayor Walls?
Your Worship, to our peace officer, can you comment, Peace Officer Teresa, whether or not you have changed your opinion on whether potbelly pigs should be allowed in Strathmore or not?
I have not changed.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Your Worship.
Yes, Councilor Peterson?
I really appreciate you coming here today, and I find you highly, highly credible. And like Councilor Sobel, I've learned more about potbelly pigs in the last month than I thought I ever needed to know. I asked you in a conversation I had with you shortly after you were here, we discussed the things that I felt were important in terms of a decision for me to make with regards to Chuckles. And that was the approval of the majority of your neighbors, especially those adjacent to you and next to you. The fact that you would provide proof that this was a animal crucial to your child's health and well-being, and also to talk about the lengths to which you'd gone to make sure that this was a healthy and cared for animal. And so clearly you've gone to exceptional lengths. And I think I am convinced with the CD you provided and the information you provided, the letters and the information from counselors and doctors, beyond a shadow of a doubt that this animal is not just important, but crucial to the well-being of your family, particularly of your daughter. I think that's a different issue from changing the bylaw. And that's something that I'll definitely be considering tonight. And I'd appreciate hearing my fellow councillors' comments on that. But I really appreciate the education that you've given me.
Councilor Fuel.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Mr. Dahl, I don't seem to see or have the actual medical documentation or reports from the counselors that have said this about Chuckles. Do you, I know you mentioned names as far as the school counselor and a doctor, but did we actually get a report from any of them or a letter? I don't seem to see anything in anything that I have here. Am I missing something?
I think that was in the stuff that we got last.
Okay. The first one is this one here. This is from the family doctor.
Oh, okay. No, I have not seen it. Oh.
It says the above patient is experienced and has been deciphering medical doctor's reading to continue as a role as having to give up her pet pig.
Okay. All right.
Oh, referred to counseling as a result of having to give up her pet pig.
No.
Councilor Sobel?
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, I want to see that.
Pardon me?
I'm just waiting for that, Your Worship. No hurries.
And while they're looking at that, Mr. Dahl, just for my thoughts in regards to this, I, similar to Councilor Fuel, have an open mind. And I'm willing to look at both sides of every concern. But what I must do is make sure that all of the necessary documents and everything is in place for us to make any sort of a change to our bylaw. And one of those things that we must pay attention to is our peace officers, to make sure that we are giving them the tools that they need to do their job. And if the peace officers were to come back and say, we can handle it this way, and they change the recommendation, that would certainly open my mind up in regards to the actions that I would take.
May I add to that, Your Worship?
Yes.
When there was the consultation with the Chestermere bylaw enforcement, where Chestermere does allow pet potbelly pigs in town, bylaw was aware of one potbelly pig that was on the golf course. There's close to 10 potbelly pigs that live in Chestermere. We're not causing that much of an issue. I will say that all of this that's come through and all the information that we received, we're not alone in town, but they're not causing an issue.
Deputy Mayor Walls?
Your Worship, to Trevor, how long have you had the Chuckles for?
Chuckles has been, I believe he's 2 now? 2. I've had potbelly pigs though for probably the last 20 years as pets.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Falkland?
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I direct this question to our senior peace officer? Teresa, have you got any, or maybe I've seen it somewhere here, I'm getting lost in this material. Have you any feedback on the Chestermere bylaw or peace officers over in Chestermere in regards to the pigs in there?
I spoke to a peace officer, Bowman. He's one, because I was questioning about their allowance for potbelly pigs, because they don't have any limitations or any size or anything, so that's why I phoned them. And he said they're aware of one pig And it lives on the golf course, and we've had no issues.
So 1 pig out of 10 in Chestermere is probably got loose and ran on the golf course,
Or maybe someone called in a complaint that he didn't state.
or maybe it's going for a round of golf, maybe.
That happens a lot, so you don't hear of any animal in town. That's sick.
Thanks, Teresa.
Councillor Fuel.
Your worship, I have a question through the chair to administration. Maybe they can answer this. When it comes to a situation like this, rather than amending the whole bylaw for a town, can you keep an existing bylaw and allow for a situation like a pig that's been an exception to the bylaw, where a pig like Chuckles has been identified as a therapy pig or an emotional support animal?
Sorry, your worship, yes, it is possible.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Blockland.
Thank you, Worship. Well, with that answer there, could we, on that note, could we direct administration to bring back an amendment with special conditions attached to the pet bylaw to a future council meeting here?
Councillor Peterson, unless administration wants to respond first to the question whether or not you can bring something back.
Councillor Blockland, I'm prepared to move a motion tonight as an exception to the existing bylaw.
Okay, well,
Councillor
Your worship,
Sobel.
but due respect, it's administration's job to bring us the bylaw amendment. So we
But
shouldn't be
would it be
voting
an
on amendment that has not been prepared by administration in consultation with our bylaw animal control officer.
Councillor Peterson.
Your worship, through to Councillor Sobel, my understanding from what I just heard is that we don't have to change the bylaw. We're simply making a motion to make an exception to that bylaw. We're not amending it. We're not changing
Oh,
it.
no, we are amending it.
Why would it be an amendment if it's an exception?
I believe that the amendment would have to be, we'd have to bring back an amending bylaw to amend the old bylaw to allow for special circumstances.
One exception.
Yes.
All right,
And it would
well,
need
then,
three.
then Councillor Sobel certainly is correct.
First time this week.
So are you prepared to entertain a motion at this point?
I'll just give you one.
Yes.
Okay. Read your motion. Please repeat your motion then, please.
Direction.
Or direction, whichever it is.
Your worship, I would like to direct administration to bring back an amendment with special conditions attached to the pet bylaw to either the next or future council meeting. With regards to a Vietnamese potbelly pig.
And the intention on that is in regards to the potbelly pig,
Staying in the doll.
staying in the doll home. I think we're talking singular, not. Okay. Yeah.
Good with that tonight.
So the direction at this point is for administration to review and bring back an amendment
With conditions.
with conditions. Any further discussion? All in favor? And carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is item 5.5, Strathmore Assembly of Youth Disc Golf. If we could have the people come forward that wish to present this to us. And all that we ask is have a chair. Do you need another chair? Are you okay?
It'll be okay. We'll just stand up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
We get to play?
Thank you.
We get to try it?
Yeah.
We've actually got a copy of this.
Pigs, disco.
That could hurt people. We could hurt people.
This isn't my phone.
Thanks, Jim.
I want the pink. Well, it's because you're a dirty.
And if you would just quickly identify yourself, and then we'll let you speak.
Your worship, counselors, administration, and guests. Hello, my name is Caitlin Swan, and I have been involved with SAY for the last 2 years. SAY stands for the Strathmore Assembly of Youth, and our main purpose is to increase youth involvement in the community. We meet 2 times a month with Mayor L or Councillor Fuel. Each meeting is a little different, but generally we use the time to discuss the issues we see the youth facing in Strathmore. In addition, every year we choose a project to better the community and to try and solve the issues we see happening with the youth. One of the main issues we have come across is that there is this notion instilled in youth that there's nothing to do with Strathmore. While we don't agree that there's nothing to do, we do believe Strathmore is in need of more recreational activities for residents. And tonight we would like to tell you about our idea to build a disc golf course. Our hope is that you will grant us permission to continue with our project and allow us permission to build the course in the town's park, and that you will assume ownership and maintenance after the course is built. Chelsea will now discuss our project further.
My name is Chelsea Dyke. I'm the president of SAY, and I'm also a grade 12 student at Strathmore High School. So many people don't know what disc golf is, so I'm just going to familiarize you guys. So disc golf is played just like traditional golf, but the only difference is that instead of a hole, you have a basket, and instead of golf tees or golf clubs and balls, you have discs in front of you. And just like regular golf, you still count the strokes. Every hole has a par. They each have a tee box, which you take your first throw off of. And everyone in this room can play disc golf. Okay, so if you're a senior, if you are a young person, if you have a family and you want to use, if you would like to play, you can. There are many disc golf courses in Alberta. There's 6 in Calgary, which most people don't know that, but there is. There is one in Canmore, and there are a few around Edmonton, and many more in Alberta. So we've given you each a disc. So if you would like to try to throw it in the basket, you can. Give it a shot.
Nice. Okay, that's pressure.
Mr. Fuel, like to try that again? Considering you're a gym teacher.
I'm gonna take out the computer and I'm looking at your body's gonna go away.
Nice.
So if you have already taken a look at our proposed course, you can. It's after our proposal and the packages that we gave you. So the suggested course will begin at Brentwood School, and then it'll continue on to go through the land by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then continue on to Maple Park and Dinosaur Hill, and then straight into Cambridge, where the playground and the soccer nets are. And then also it would move into Cambridge, where the outdoor rink is normally set up. And then transition into Lions Park along the canal, and then to the Birch Forest would be where the last 2 holes are. So each hole consists of a tee box, which is just a concrete pad, which you take your first throw off of, and then a metal basket and a sign which will have the map of the hole, the regulations for it, so where out of bounds are, such as the soccer fields that are in the parks are out of bounds, so if you get there, your desk is in there. There's a count. And then also the par of the hole, and then directions to where the next hole starts. So now Sabrina is going to tell you about the benefits of having a disc golf course in Strathmore.
Okay, my name is Sabrina Koistra. I'm in grade 10 at Strathmore High School, and this is my first year in SAG. So there are several benefits to having a disc golf here in Strathmore. One of the largest advantages that we have is the fact that it is a virtually free sport. The only underlying cost is the discs, which is quite a low cost of $10 to $25 and can also be replaced with a regular frisbee. Having a disc golf course will also give people a chance to take part in a year-round sport that requires no intense training or a high skill level. Disc golf is also very open to people of every age, and like Chelsea said, for families or seniors, it's very easy to use. Disc golf in specific has several advantages over regular golf. It is a free sport and has a considerably low construction cost over basketball or tennis courts. The course also provides the opportunity to choose the first hole that you begin at, as opposed to starting at the first one like regular golf. With the addition of the disc golf course, Strathmore is receiving an inexpensive activity that is growing in popularity and may bring in other disc golf players who will be spending time around Strathmore and supporting our services such as the hotels and restaurants. This course will provide Strathmore with the new trending sport. It's quite at a low cost and will give Strathmore citizens an opportunity to get outside and stay active. Chanel will address some of the challenges of our project.
Hi, my name is Chanel Jones. I'm currently a grade 12 student at Strathmore High School. This will be my third year in SAG. I'll be presenting the challenges of having a disc golf course here in Strathmore. To continue planning and construction, the bylaw number 14-07 states that no person while in a park shall play disc while in a park. So, we suggest that it be changed to only be to allow disc golf to only be played while on the course. This will allow us to continue with our project and continue planning it. Another concern would be discs in backyards. All players would be responsible for their own discs, and it would be dependent on their skill level and how far the basket is. Another challenge would be the walking distance when you finish the course. It's quite a far walk once you finish, but the course can begin and end anywhere you wish. So that's a good thing. Graffiti might also be a concern. Our research shows that most courses do not get vandalized and may even decrease vandalism. This may be due to the players present in the park and increased activity in the parks. It would be like hitting two birds with one stone for graffiti. Fundraising is also an obvious issue, and Raven can elaborate on it further.
Hi, my name is Raven, and I'm a grade 12 student at HCC. I've been a member of SAG for 2 years, so let's discuss funding. We're estimating the cost of each hole to be $715, and the total cost of the course to be $13,000, which doesn't include the cost of labor. SAG has already raised $3,000 for this project. To pay for the rest, we plan on approaching businesses in the community for sponsorship. Each business could sponsor one hole, and SAG would ensure that their name or logo is displayed on the sign next to the hole they're sponsoring. Labor is also something SAG will need help with. Our group is willing to do some physical labor. However, we will require some experts to guide the construction of the project. Hopefully, the town's Parks Development Department will be willing to volunteer with this. Our goal is to have all the funding and assistance required for this project secured by February 2015. We are very excited about this project, as we believe it will be an excellent addition to our town and benefit the surrounding community by enhancing Strathmore's recreational facilities. Does council have any questions for us regarding our proposal?
Councilor Peel.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I want to commend you and your group because this is amazing. I mean, 30 years ago, you won't believe this, but we played Frisbee golf in Banff, and we used to pick trees and rocks to try to throw them at. So we've come a long way as far as this goes. And luckily, I'm not the only one who missed the actual hole. My question to you is, I'm wondering if, as a starting point, to me, when I look at your photo, it looks like the first 9 holes are brilliant as far as they're almost set off naturally as a course, and they're within close proximity. You're not crossing any roads or anything. You're not jammed in anywhere. I'm wondering if how you guys would feel as a group and as a committee and with your teacher leaders if we were to approach this as a 9-hole course first and just see how it works in residential. Because those first 9 holes, when you look at it, it looks like a golf course and they're in close proximity to each other. So I'm just wondering how you feel about downscaling it just at the start to see how 9 holes work. And since that seems such a natural look as far as a 9-hole course, have you thought about that? I guess is basically what I'm coming down to.
We have considered only having a 9-hole course. And the only problem with this is that if you look on the overview, it says a whole one here, and we wanted it to be a circle. That way people could start wherever they wanted to and then end up back where they started. The problem with only going to 9 holes is that you'd have to walk all the way back to where you started, and you wouldn't be able to do it as a cycle. You'd have to start a hole 1 or a hole 9.
Well, the other thing you could do is play it in reverse order. So when you get to the 9th hole, you could play it backwards to get right back to where you started. I'm just wondering, because if you played it all the way to 18, it's not really a circle. You're you're far away from where you started.
We were also, the reason why we didn't have 9 holes as well is because we need more than 9 holes to be actual, like, there can be a tournament. Or a disc golf. So that's why we need more than 9 holes as well. That was also taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Blokman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Pat, I don't know if that would work in reverse order because you'd be hitting the people going backwards, wouldn't you?
If you're in a tournament, but if you've just got a small group of 4 people out for an hour. Yeah, if you were in a tournament, definitely you'd be throwing. I know you're a golfer, so you would.
Yeah, and as the first lady up there said, it's a little bit like regular golf where you keep score. The guys I golf with don't count after strokes, so I'm kind of liking this one here. This is a lot nicer. The one other question I had, but I think I found my answer, was these things are permanently mounted in, so they can't.
It's just a temporary basket that we have in our business presented from our school. But all the baskets will be permanent and they will be cemented.
And is this year round? Like I seen a picture here where they're throwing in the snow.
You can, as long as you want to be outside, then go for it.
I think this is great for the town. I love this, and I'll stick my neck out and buy a hole if you ever get this off the ground.
Wow.
Nice job.
Nice job. Well said, well spoken.
17 to go.
20 good.
Councillor Peterson.
I just really echo my fellow councillors. I commend you on an excellent job. It's absolutely fabulous on so many levels, on service to community and the planning that's gone into it, and the longevity of the project year round. It just has so many favorable things. I just had a question. Does everybody own their own disc, like they would a set of golf clubs? That kind of idea.
And the great thing with this is that you can have 1 disc and then you only need 1 unless you want to go out further and get more advanced when you get the sport. Because a lot of people just start off beginning with 1 and they get more involved with it.
And I can imagine very small children can also participate in this as well.
Yeah. And just like in golf, there are different kinds of discs.
Ooh.
I noticed that they were
there's
different.
a putter, there's long distance drivers.
That's awesome.
And each disc has a different weight and they're regulated. So there's speed, glide, turn, and fade. And each of those things affect your throw.
Where do you intend on marketing them within the community? Do you have a place in mind that you would sell them from?
Well, Say sells them.
Aha,
But we're
very
not
good.
really open to the community.
Yeah,
Only
not yet.
people
Yeah.
in our group have
Yeah.
been buying them.
So would that continue, and would you use it to make a profit?
No.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay.
There's stores in Calgary you can go to.
Sure. Yeah.
Most sporting goods stores.
I imagine there'd be some in Strathmore too.
I'm sure it would. Just such a good job.
Councillor Field?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering if any of you ladies in your research or looking into this have found what other communities have done for things that you've mentioned already, like if a disc goes into someone's yard and they go in and a dog bites them, or if you break a window. Is there anything that communities have done or what they've passed as far as how to deal with those potential situations to homeowners?
Well, I think it would just be up to the individual's responsibility because it's not really governed by the town regulations. And we've allowed for enough room on either side in the houses. So I think as long as you're not doing anything that you're responsible, there shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, well, Councillor Walls, or Deputy Mayor Walls first, please.
Absolutely.
Your Worship, one of the young ladies made a comment about the potential bylaw change. Your Worship, perhaps maybe we can get a comment from administration as to what the bylaw actually reads and the rationale for the change. Is it because there's no frisbees allowed in parks?
It's 1407.
It's
Maybe you could just bring it back.
Yeah, parks and pathways. And it's specifically yes.
Oh. Perhaps we could get that brought back.
Makes sense.
Well, not now.
Not right now.
Councillor Sobel, then?
Future.
Yeah. I really struggling to find something I want to ask you. I just really want to tell you guys I'm so impressed with your presentation, and this idea is, I know you guys were working on this, but I got to be honest with you. I'm floored that it's what this is, because I'm amazed. I just absolutely amazed. But somebody mentioned something about graffiti, and I don't think we were talking about damage, but has there been any issues with damaging the baskets? I guess that's my biggest concern.
Our research has basically shown that the baskets and just the signs and stuff don't really get vandalized. I think it's because the players are out and about and they're on the parks. And, it can also just be like that it's a public sport and people need to read the signs and maybe people just respect that.
Right on. Love it. Thank you.
Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Have you given any thought to how the sponsorship will look? Have you thought that far ahead as to how the sponsorship might look on the cement pads? Or
We decided that the company's logo or the community group's logo would be represented on the signs that we make. So the signs that have the maps.
Very good. I just want to say I don't like golf. I agree with Mark Twain that golf is just a good walk ruined, but I think this is magnificent.
It's an added.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Excellent job.
May I ask a question or two now? The only one area that I was concerned in regards to using was the birth forest, and whether or not there had been any discussion in regards to the birth forest and whether or not it might cause a bit of a problem.
It wouldn't be going through the birth forest. We'd just be using that park area, the green space there. So where there's a soccer field and then there's a playground.
Okay.
We'd go around that field. We wouldn't go specifically through the growth that's there.
And the next question that I have is in regards to maintenance. You would ask that the town take care of the maintenance during the summer in regards to mowing the lawns. I think we normally take care of those parks anyways. And the other maintenance that you're looking at would be the ongoing maintenance in regards to replacing damaged, worn equipment, those kinds of things. And it's about maximum for installation is 750, did you say?
715.
15? Okay. All right, so that would be the most of it.
Not per basket. Per basket, each basket is.
There's a breakdown in your package.
Okay. And then the other assistance that you're looking at is assistance in regards to our engineering department to be able to assist them. And I'll direct this question to administration. Do you see any difficulty in regards to giving them some assistance for this project?
That'd be no problem.
No problem? Okay. So I will entertain a motion and we can get into the heavy discussion in regards to this one.
Your Worship, I guess the question to council is,
Oh,
are we going to be amending the bylaw? Because obviously we have to do a bylaw change on 1407.
Well,
Bring it back.
To
yeah.
bring it back. So then by direction, I guess I would instruct the administration to bring back an amendment to bylaw 1407.
If I may, we may be a little early on this because they're not anywhere near getting ready for this now. And I think it's at the point where they're getting fairly close and this thing's going to be a go because they've got a bunch of fundraising to do yet, as I understand it.
So, Your Worship, it's going to take us a couple months to change a
Well,
bylaw
yep,
anyways,
okay.
so I guess it doesn't
Sure.
really. I guess in my mind, it would just, to Councilor Silver, rather, I think it would just show a little bit of faith that
Sure.
we're prepared to
Sounds
move
good.
on this. Councilor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would like to move that Strathmore Town Council sponsor upon the go-ahead of this project, that Strathmore Town Council sponsor hole number 1 on the disc golf.
That's my vote.
Too late.
There's a motion on the floor in regards to town council sponsoring.
Well, town of Strathmore. Town Council move, yes, the town of Strathmore sponsor. Yes, thank you.
Your Worship, could I just ask a question? I like your motion, but do we need to add up to a cost figure on a motion like that? If we're going to,
$1,000. Let's put $1,000 on.
Up
Yeah,
to?
Up to $1,000.
because
There's a motion on the floor in regards to town of Strathmore sponsoring hole number 1
Absolutely.
to a maximum of $1,000. Is there any discussion? Councilor Blokeland.
you once were.
Thank you, Your Worship. Am I reading this right? The total cost per hole is 715? Okay.
We're adding GST.
Maybe a little bit of labor.
Your Worship, could I ask one more question?
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
When you quote the price of $715, is that including the cement pad that's being put in? So everything is $715
Except labor.
except for labor. And you guys are gonna dig. Just checking.
I have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
can I make a-
Oh, go ahead, yes.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that motion?
By all means, go ahead.
Do we take hole number 2?
I don't
That's
think
not an
so.
amendment.
I don't
I'm
think so.
sorry.
Change from 1 to 2?
You have caused so much trouble today. I can't believe it.
That's not an amendment. I'm sorry. I won't entertain that
That's-
amendment. All in favor of the motion? And carried. And allow us to commend you in regards to your ingenuity and your desire to accomplish this. You haven't asked in regards to any funds, and to have any group come to us and say this is unusual in the very least. That what you are doing here today is telling the town, the people of Strathmore, just what a great youth we have. And I say thank you. Now, we haven't passed a motion to support them or encourage them or whatever the
Yes,
motion might be.
Your Worship, and that's where I was trying to go, except my computer is running out of battery power, so I was trying to find this section here. So say it's requesting permission from town council to build a disc golf course in Strathmore, and would like to permission to continue planning and to construct the proposed course. They are seeking a commitment from the town that after the course is constructed, the town of Strathmore will assume ownership of it and will maintain. So I move that their requests be supported. All three requests. If that's okay, Ms. Sawatsky, would that be a good enough motion for you?
Sure.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And carried.
Your Worship.
Councilor
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just before we let you all go, again, we all commend you. You've heard that before. But I also wanted to spotlight and commend the teachers who are involved in Ms. McDonald and Ms. Ruzick have done a great deal of work since the inception. They've created SAY, or Ms. McDonald's been spearheading it, and Ms. Ruzick joined slightly after. But I wanted to commend them as teachers who've given up so much of their spare time to work with these youth, and you guys have done an amazing job. So thank you too.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, you guys.
Well done.
Well done.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is 6.1 bylaw 1417 land use bylaw amendment. And that is on page 2. Councilor Deputy Mayor Wall.
Your worship, as I missed the public hearing due to a family commitment, I need to abstain from voting.
Thank you. Councilor Walls is temporarily left the room. We have bylaw 1417 in front of us, and I will take any motions.
I would move that council give second reading to bylaw number 14-17.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And I'll entertain another motion.
Your worship, I would move that council give third reading to bylaw number 14-17.
Any discussion? Yes.
Your worship, I would just like to point out, our planning director, Mr. Fisher, did note that continued construction in this area prior to change to the water main may prove difficult in the future. So just that we need to be very cautious as we move forward in this district with regards to that issue.
Yes, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And bylaw 1419, offset levy bylaw. That's planning and development. Good evening, sir.
Good evening again, Your Worship. The lands shown on page 65 of your agenda package in yellow and outlined in red and identified as stormwater north drainage and stormwater west drainage are anticipated eventually to drain to the Serviceberry Creek watershed by one of two distinct channels. The Cooperative Stormwater Management Report completed by MPE Engineering in April this year addressed preferred stormwater management options and identified these and confirmed these drainage basins as well as identifying potential costs. There are two subdivisions that currently depend on what are influenced by this matter. There is the Wildflower Ranch Phase 2 and the Lakewood Meadows Phase 1 subdivision, and these are anticipated in the long run to drain to Serviceberry Creek. This matter is before you because we finally have some costs, some hard costs that we can assign to this levy thanks to the work done by Mark Rold in the last couple of weeks. And so we're able to bring this matter forward. We believe that this is a matter of some urgency. It allows us to charge almost $16,000 per hectare to enable that stormwater eventually to reach Serviceberry Creek. There is some risk to the town, or there's maybe risk is no, it's the wrong word. There's some risk of complication to the town. In the event that we cannot come to an agreement with the WID, then we have to figure out some way of getting this water to Eagle Lake, and then that money will be used to build the necessary infrastructure. On the other hand, if we don't collect this levy at this time, then the town and the ratepayers will be financing those monies. So staff believe it's a matter of prudence that this be adopted this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain some motion.
Your worship, I would move that council give first reading to bylaw number 14-19.
Motion's on the floor, all in favor? And carried.
Your worship, I move the council give second reading to bylaw 14-19.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And
Your worship, I move the council give third reading to bylaw 14.
Third and final.
Third and final?
No, sorry, your worship, you need unanimous consent to go to third reading.
and it's not here on my
Your
appointment.
worship, I move to give unanimous consent to bylaw 14-19.
All in favor? And carried. And thank you.
And
And
now
I-
the final one.
And I would move that council give third and final reading to bylaw 14-19.
Okay. All in favor? And carried. There's no old business, and new business to be brought forward is request for proposals, safety codes.
Your worship, I'm
Yes.
sorry, but there are 2 more additional items under bylaws. Item
On the other sheet?
6.3, yes.
Okay, I don't have the other sheet in front of me, I apologize. No, it's here, I just have to get it out from underneath. Okay. Town bylaw, 6.3, town bylaw amendment for 14-18.
Your worship, administration brought forward the Town of Strathmore Fees Bylaw Amendment Bylaw at the October 15th council meeting with proposed changes to the bylaw to amend the fees. At that meeting, council gave first and second reading to the bylaw with some amendments. Council has made the amendments as instructed by council and is now bringing it back to council for third and final reading.
Thank you. So I'll entertain any questions, first of all.
I would move that council give third and final reading to bylaw number 14-18, fees bylaw, amendment bylaw.
And I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none?
Your worship, just
Okay,
give me 1
okay,
second, please.
Okay, fine, sure.
Deputy Mayor
Thank
Hall? Sorry, Council Sobel. Your worship to Jennifer, I know we talked about this, or through the administration rather. I know we talked about this numerous times about opening and closing the plots, and I guess I'm still having some hard time trying to decide why it costs more money to be buried in the winter and so forth. I understand there's additional charges, and I'm really hoping to get that wrapped into one cost to make it easier on the family, and that's really what I was hoping for. That's hence the reason I did not vote in favor the last time. Everything else is 100% support. It's just I'm trying to just make it simpler for the family, and I understand that it's a direct cost that we incorporate and we bear. It just I'd like it to see that simpler.
No questions, no comments?
No, other than I don't agree, but.
Welcome to democracy.
No further questions.
I just have,
Okay.
well, I'm looking madly, just checking on the, making sure that there are no more, there's no more differences in hockey fees, like non-resident fees. I was just looking, sorry, I was looking at the, I have to find the page again. Under Schedule D, on page 32 of the original. Under ice rentals, and so just we didn't change that. Am I correct on that?
This is the old
That's the old one, so this is the new one.
with the yellow on it.
And that is on page.
Schedule D, it should be.
Schedule D. Okay.
It's on page 15.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no more questions.
Any further discussion? If I remember correctly, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? I would call it defeated. Thank you. Did you vote?
I voted.
You voted yes?
Gotta be fast, yes.
Like,
It's still 3-3, right? So it's a defeat.
So it's a defeated vote. Was it
The way I
3-3?
read it, it was defeated. It was even.
3-3.
Defeated.
Interesting.
It will be nice one day when we can afford the electronic system.
That is interesting, Your Worship.
We have Town of Strathmore Fees Bylaw Amendment 6.4, Amendment number 14-20.
Your Worship, recommendations are coming forward for changes to the utility schedule F of the fees bylaw. This was not included in the first set of amendments that we brought forward. In this bylaw, water has a 20-cent increase, and it's being requested, which is related to the increased cost of water that is coming from the city of Calgary. The increase is 100% based on the increase of water. No additional margin is being added from the town. Also, a connection charge is being proposed for newly constructed premises to cover the growth charges incurred from the city of Calgary. The fee is $490 and will be collected at the time of building permit application. Administration is recommending first, second, and third reading of bylaw 1420.
Deputy Mayor Walz?
Your Worship, I'd move that council give first reading to bylaw 14-20 fees bylaw amendment bylaw.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And carried.
Your Worship, I move the council give second reading to bylaw 14-20 fees bylaw amendment bylaw.
And we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? And carried.
Your Worship, I move that council give unanimous consent to a third reading of bylaw 14-20 fees bylaw amendment bylaw.
All in favor? And carried.
Your Worship, I move the council give third and final reading to bylaw 14-20 fees bylaw amendment bylaw.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? And? Okay, carried.
Sorry, I'm reading as I'm going.
Next item is new business, request for proposal, safety codes inspection services. Did I miss something again? Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep, you're good.
Evening, Your Worship, Council.
Good evening, Ms. Nelson.
We had sent an invitation to submit proposals for the provision of safety code services for electrical, gas, and plumbing disciplines, as well as the occasional inspection services under the building discipline. And two proponents answered the request: Davis Inspection Services and Superior Safety Codes, Inc., both with offices in Calgary. And the town currently utilizes Davis Inspection Services for both, for all of our inspections. Both proponents have excellent references and employ highly trained inspectors. The biggest difference between the proposals were that Davis offered a 60-40 split on the fees, and Superior offered a 70-30 split on the fees. So with Davis, the town would retain 40%, and with Superior, the town would retain 30%. So we are recommending that it would be financially more prudent to award the contract to Davis Inspection Services.
Deputy Mayor Walz?
Your Worship, can our Deputy CEO comment on how Davis currently works with our contractors?
We have no issues. that we have had noted.
Councilor Sobel?
If there were issues, are you comfortable with the fact that you would have been knowledgeable of them?
I would hope so.
I mean, you yourself personally,
Yes,
because I've heard a bunch. of
you have
concern.
heard.
Well, I've got the actually Betty Ann's in the back with her hand
Yeah,
up, but
maybe Betty Ann could.
Thank you, Councilor Sobel, Mayor, Council. I'm not going to say that we haven't had issues with some of the contractors butting heads, if you want to call it, with some of the safety codes officers. That happens. They are of different opinions on how something should be done. The code is the code, and just like the bylaw, interpretation. When we, myself, Kathy, or Audrey, receive a concern by a homeowner or a contractor, we address it immediately with Davis Inspections. We have that sort of communication set up with us, and we've always had that. Sometimes it's just everybody's having a bad day. Sometimes it is a difference of opinion, but in most cases, and I don't know of any instances to date where we have not been able to resolve an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sobel?
fair enough. And I didn't mean to put you in a position with. I know it's a tough situation, but actually, the calls, the general idea of the calls I was getting or the complaints was basically on the inability of Davis to get back to contractors. Like it's just it sounds like it's a communication thing more than anything. And I'm interested in the fact that they rated higher, or the other company, wherever it is, rated higher in customer service than Davis was. So, is it possible to just find out a little bit more about those, because I don't have access to the point system that was used. So all I have noted here is that Superior scored 5 points higher on category number 1. I don't even know what that is, but I'm assuming that is customer service.
I wouldn't say it's exactly customer service. Okay. If I can explain what the criteria
Sure.
was. So we asked for the proposal format in accordance with the RFP. They scored points on that. The executive summary, availability, data management, training and transition, the proposed safety codes officers, and compliance monitoring. And this comes directly out of our quality management plan that we have with the Safety Codes Council. So we've used their criteria. So I guess it's not exactly customer service fully.
Okay. Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think the important comment from Ms. Fountain was that that all issues have been satisfactorily resolved.
Yeah, and like I said,
and are dealt
not.
with as they arise. So thank you.
Any further questions? Oh, sorry, Councilor Field.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question through the chair to Ms. Nelson. Have we used Superior Safety Codes Incorporated before as a town?
We have not. Now, I believe that Superior Safety Codes did not used to be Alberta Permit Pro, but they were a company formed out of Alberta Permit Pro, who we did use in the past.
Okay. And is a large consideration the amount that the town retains as far as the split on fees? Is that weighed heavier in these categories at all?
No, it is not weighed heavier. We're like what we're saying is in the actual format and the presentation of the proposal, Superior scored higher, but in the financial end,
Okay.
Davis.
Yeah, I
scored
see
higher.
that here. Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the council award the contract for safety codes inspection services. Davis Inspection Services Limited for a term of 3 years with an option to renew for an additional 1 year as mutually agreed by both parties, and that the CAO be authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the town.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Councilor Field?
I just have one question, Your Worship. Councilor Sobel, are you convinced that your concerns from the people who've contacted you have been addressed as far as anything regarding this Davis?
Well, Councillor Fuel, my response was, as it normally is, if you have a legitimate concern or complaint about one of our facilities, or a group that we deal with, it's important that you make that known, preferably in writing to the CAO. That's how things do get resolved. If people choose not to do that, then that's their choice. I'm taking Ms. Fountain at her word that any issues that were raised have been dealt with and dealt with satisfactorily. I have nothing contrary in front of me. So yes, I guess, I just want, I wanted to emphasize to both whoever gets this contract and anyone else that customer service is kind of important for me in this town.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Your
Thank you.
Worship.
And 8.2, medical direction.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town of Strathmore has received an invitation to receive medical direction from Alberta Health Services through Emergency Medical Services. And we are asking that council support the formal invitation from Alberta Health Services for the provision of medical direction for the town of Strathmore Fire Department. And Bass is going to explain to you what medical direction is.
Thank
I
you.
can help you.
Put you on the spot. Well, first of all, let me say this is the most interesting council meeting I've ever been to, from pigs to former councilor Nelson in the shower. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate that very much. To build on the point of Councillor Sobel and customer service, it's a service that the fire department has provided in the past and continues to provide today, is medical response when an ambulance is not available in Strathmore. So if there is no EMS unit available to respond in a set period of time in Strathmore, the fire department is called to provide first response medical service to the resident in Strathmore. Currently, that's being done. You call 911, there's no ambulance, a fire truck will show up at your residence to help. In the past, this has been done as kind of a joint agreement with the ambulance service with Wedemsa. It probably should have in the past been under medical direction through the medical director of Wedemsa. That has never been formally agreed to and formally documented. With Alberta Health taking over EMS services in the province of Alberta, they have put a task force together to create protocols for fire response. And they actually have a medical director by the name of Dr. Hanahan, who has approved all these medical protocols for the province of Alberta. And they're basically set out for fire departments to follow to provide medical response. This is a step forward for our department in that it provides coverage for our members from a liability perspective. Right now, if we go out, we're relying on basically the Good Samaritan Act, first aid regulations, right? That nobody's going to say, hey, what are you doing? By being under medical direction, we completely cover any liability that we may have as volunteers. So it's a step forward for us. There is cost to the town, to the fire department, to seek this medical direction. One of the drawbacks is that we do have to follow the protocols that are in place. However, they are sound and obviously under medical advice. So there should be no reason not to agree with any of those protocols. We've reviewed all those protocols and they're standard. And they go everything from what a first aider can provide, which the majority of the fire department is certified to, standard first aid level, but there are also those of us on the fire department that have a higher certification in medical treatment, such as fire medical response or an EMTA, emergency medical technician ambulance. So the recommendation from administration is to proceed with seeking medical response or medical direction.
Questions? Councillor Blockman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Baz, I think now in 2014, it's even more important than it was a few years ago with Wademza. We're dispatched out of Calgary now. There is some concern over where these ambulances are going and if they even show up where they're supposed to be going. So I think this is more important now than it ever has been.
Yeah, I would agree. The number of calls, I know we've been before council speaking of medical response for the town of Strathmore previously, and it's still to this day, it's not a frequent occurrence. I keep stats in front of you and I apologize, but just from an operational perspective, from me being the guy on the fire engine responding, I can think in the last 6 months of 2 I've personally been on where we responded to the EMS unit showing up. So I think it's a prudent move to put this in place and provide for the volunteers of the Strathmore Fire Department.
Yep, good call.
Your Worship, if council's ready.
No, I'm not. Just a couple of quick questions, if I might. One of the questions that I have is if we have the medical director dispatch, does Alberta Health Services pay the cost of the fire truck?
Negative. That's really up to the municipality to cover that service.
Okay. And is this medical direction for within the town limits only?
That is correct. It's within the town of Strathmore.
Within the town of Strathmore.
That's correct. Everything else, Your Worship, would be covered by mutual aid agreements. So,
And
or fire services agreement.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. In regards to responding, and this is just almost as a last resort because in most cases the ambulance would. And so what we're doing is we're just putting an extra layer of safety in there for the citizens.
Correct.
Good. I'll entertain a motion now. Thank you. Oh, unless there was another question or two.
Your Worship, I move the council support the formal invitation from Alberta Health Services for the provision of medical direction for the town of Strathmore.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
And 8.3 National Child Day.
Your Worship, Council has received a request from the Five for Life in Strathmore to proclaim November as National Child Day in Strathmore. On November 20th, Canada and countries across the world celebrate National Child Day as a reminder of a shared commitment to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. It is administration's recommendation that Council proclaim November 20th as National Child Day in Strathmore.
Your
We
Worship, I move that
Okay.
council proclaim November 20th as National Child Day.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Next item is Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month.
Your Worship, Council has received a request to proclaim November as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Strathmore. Pancreatic cancer is the 4th leading cause of cancer death in Canada. Many cities and towns across Canada have declared the month of November as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and a request has been received asking the town of Strathmore to do the same. Administration is recommending the proclamation.
Is there any questions? Deputy Mayor Walsh, would you like to make the motion?
Your Worship, I would, as requested, what did come to me from this family. So I would move the council proclaim November as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Strathmore.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Next, we have a donation request from the Strathmore District Christmas Hamper Society.
Your Worship, Council has received a donation request from the Strathmore District Christmas Hamper Society for a monetary donation of $2,300 to assist with the purchase of hampers and toys for the benefit of poor and needy families within the town of Strathmore and surrounding Wheatland County. There is information in your package and a letter of the request from the Strathmore District Chamber Hamper Society. And this is for Council's discussion.
Is there any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Your worship, I would move that council donate $2,300 to the Strathmore and District Christmas Hamper Society for their 2014 campaign. And we need to specify where the funds are coming from.
Your worship, council has a line item in the council budget for donations to outside organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion?
With thanks and appreciation for their work.
And did we get a motion on that?
Mhm.
Yes? Okay. All in favor? And carried. Council procedure policy amendments.
Your worship, administration is bringing forward the council procedural policy to council with some amendments. The amendments in mind are guidelines, or are adding guidelines in and around CAO briefing sessions, and also changing some amendments to the regular meetings of council. In your package, you have the proposed amendments. And on page 92 of that document is where most of the changes are being made. So whereas council in the past has not held meetings in the month of August, we have now are recommending changes to the policy to regulate 2 regular council meetings per month and 1 CAO meeting per month. Other changes in the regular council meeting section are that council meetings will commence at 7 p.m., but they can commence at an earlier time if council decides to have or needs to have an in-camera session. That change is also reflected in the order of business later on in the document. The big change in this policy is in regard to the CAO briefing sessions, and we've included some guidelines for council in this section. In this section, it talks, or it states that council, it's a one-way flow of information from administration to council. No debate, no direction shall take place during a CAO briefing session. Other changes in the document are on, Section 23, and those changes have just been made in order to better clarify a procedure regarding reconsidering a motion. The policy, as it read before, was a little confusing, so we've just cleared up the language in that section so that it's a little bit easier to understand. And if there's any questions, I'd be willing to answer.
Questions? Yes, I'll do you have a question?
Yeah, I do, Your Worship. Worship, can you comment? Did our council committee review this as well? And this is what the committee recommended?
That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship.
I'll wait another moment to see if there's any other questions.
Your worship.
Yes.
I'm just reviewing. I'm looking at the stem of 5.8 and just going through to check to make sure that all of the following points from 5.8.1 through to 5.8.10 are clear. And I understand these apply to all CAO briefing sessions. I would be more comfortable if there was something in the document that referenced only to CAO briefing sessions or to all and only. And my main reason for doing this is on 5.8.8, which reads, members of council shall not discuss or debate the information provided by administration amongst each other. I think the intent of this is that no debate shall occur at a CAO meeting. Am I clear on that?
Yes.
I don't necessarily think that it's particularly clear in the context.
I can see where your concern is. So would you like to make, we don't have a motion on the floor, but when the motion comes to the floor, would you like to make an amendment to change that line?
I'm not certain. I'm uncertain. You know, when I look at, I have no problem with any of the others because they speak directly to the STEM. This one has farther reaching implications. That's my concern.
Your Worship, if I may, I'm not exactly sure I'm clear, but this is going further than discussions in the CAO meeting. This goes to discussions after the CAO meeting. In other words, this information received at the CAO meeting should not be discussed until a matter is in
That's
council.
my issue. That's my issue.
You don't like that?
No, I think it's fine, but the way this reads, it can't be debated ever. That's what I'm finding problematic.
Oh, I
'Cause
see.
it is an
I see what
interpretive
you mean.
issue. No, I agree, Councillor Sobel, exactly.
Until the
Yes,
appropriate.
That's right,
Okay.
until, yeah.
Yep.
So it's just,
I'm cool
it
with
is a
that.
subtle change in wording, but there is lots of opportunity for manipulation within that, that could be construed as negative to due process. And it is the only one that I have difficulty with, Your Worship. And I don't necessarily have a solution. I think it would be simple. I guess there would be an exception. It changes the tone, the language, but I guess you'd say except as required by the
permitted.
MGA or in council.
As permitted by the MGA.
As permitted by the MGA. That leaves a pretty big open door, though, that I don't think relates to the intent of this. I guess you could say until it comes before council, at a meeting of council.
Administration, please.
So, Your Worship, yes, Councillor Peterson just said exactly what I was going to say. It could say until or unless discussed at a regular council meeting.
Or until it comes before a regular council meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I would be fine with that.
So when we have the motion put on the floor, then you can make the amendment?
Sure.
Okay.
Or I will ask Ms. Swatsky to read the amendment, proposed amendment in.
Okay, we'll entertain Councillor Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Yeah, Your Worship, just a question. So if I understand this right, if we're at a CAO meeting and some information is discussed and we talk about it outside the council chambers, we're in violation of this policy 1104.
Amongst ourselves. But it's...
So in other words, Your Worship, if I go to Councillor Gloakland's coffee shop and discuss what we discussed there, we're in violation of policy 1104.
I think if we text somebody, the way this reads, if we text somebody about an issue that came up in a CAO meeting, we're in violation. Absolutely. That is what it says.
Councillor Gloakland.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm a little confused here. Was that a CEO briefing session we started at 5:30 this afternoon?
It was listed as such.
No,
Wasn't it?
was a finance.
There's name cameras.
In camera.
So that's not.
That's different.
No.
Okay, good, thanks.
Your Worship.
Councillor Fuel.
I guess I'm wondering about 5.8.82 now. This seems to be quite limiting as far as if something comes up and we're given information, it does seem like it limits us as far as discussing it outside of here. That's worrisome.
Administration. Do you have any recommendations at this point to resolve a bit of a logjam? Now, there's one thing, we can just take this right out of our motion that we're going to make in regards to approve the policy, and then revisit this and bring it back next meeting, just as one policy. We could do that. Councillor Peterson.
When I read this, when I was looking at this and I was following through on the guidelines, to me, from the stem of this, and the intent, and I stand to be corrected, This is to give our CAO optimum opportunity to inform council of those things that are integral to the operation of community and council. 5.8.8 is restrictive, in my belief, in that it does not fit with the intent or the benefit of all the rest of 5.8. That it steps outside what this is supposed to accomplish. And so for that reason, I could not support this in its entirety. I can support it without 5.8.8, but I cannot support it with it in, for that reason. And just simply because it stands alone, it stands out, and it stands in opposition to what I believe is the intent of this.
Could you add in there during the CIO briefing?
If that's the intent of it, I am fine with that. If that is the intent, that no debate should occur during a CAO session, I think that's absolutely, then it follows the intent, what I believe is the intention of this, and it fits with the schematic.
I think that sounds good if it's just during the CEO meeting.
Yes, and if you allow it. Like, I think you have purchase over that at that CEO meeting. It can be, it might be, or it will not be. And I am
It's my
completely
meeting,
fine
yes.
with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Councilor Thiel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good catch, by the way, on this one, because you brought up an interesting point. I guess my concern is in the future, 5-6 years from now, if we have a CAO who is more rigid, this still seems kind of restrictive, because it does definitely paint the CAO meeting as just one-way information only, and we couldn't discuss something at all. And depending on who the CAO is, there could be different interpretations of what that discussion is.
Yep.
Councilor.
But there are restrictions in a CAO meeting. We want to make that very, very clear. And it's not a meeting for discussion and for argument.
No, not argument,
yeah.
but discussion's different than debate or argument. Like she may be clarifying something that I'm totally confused on, and we're discussing something. She does that a lot. She hits me. Sometimes she punches too. I don't know if the cameras have caught that. But that's my concern, is that if it's debate or argument or discussion, and there's differences between the three.
Well, then you got to go back to 5.84. It's one
So
way.
it's one way. So these should be short meetings then.
Councilor Peterson.
Relevant to CAO meetings that are directed by the CAO, I have no problem with this. If council wants to debate or discuss things, we can have a meeting whenever we want, whenever we need to. And there is no restriction on that.
Yeah.
But for these meetings, I think, with the exception of 5.8, or if we move an amendment to 5.8 to say, shall not discuss or debate the information at the CAO meeting, then I'm fine with that.
Any further questions? I'll entertain a motion then, please.
I move that council approve the council procedural policy 1104 as amended.
Can I read out the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Sol, Your Worship.
Yes.
So after the word administration, I would strike amongst each other and add at the CAO meeting. And it would then read, members of council shall not discuss or debate information or debate the information provided by administration at the CAO meeting.
And I don't think that's a friendly amendment, Your Worship, because it does change the concept. So we have to vote on that amendment first.
Okay.
It does change the intent. Absolutely, it's meant to.
Okay. Changes the intent. So we have an amendment on the floor. And is there any discussion in regards to the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? And carried. And then, on the original motion, which is to accept policy 1104
As amended.
as amended. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And thank you. Appointment of member of council administration to the Citizens Committee, establishment of council committees. On page 111.
Your Worship, Administration is bringing forward a redrafted policy number 1101, appointment of members of council, administration, and citizens to committees and establishment of council committees for council's approval. In your package, you have a policy that's been drafted to establish the process for appointments of members of council, administration, and citizens to committees and to provide guidelines for definitions, review, reporting, structure, members, etc. for council committees, new and existing. Appointment of members of council to town committees and other associations will be made in accordance with the drafted policy. This policy has gone before the Policy Review Board and is now being brought to council for consideration.
Any questions to administration? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
First, I move the council approve policy number 1101, appointment of members of council, administration, and citizens to committees and establishment of council committees. And that council rescinds policies 1102, council appointed committees and commissions, and 1102-01, council appointed committees terms of reference.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?
I just would like to say that I think this is a really good policy and it's been very well done.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And carried. New business welcoming policy, page 123.
Okay, our last policy for the night. Bringing forward a new policy, which is fairly exciting because we want to create a new business welcoming policy. Administration has drafted the attached policy to create a program to welcome new businesses to the town of Strathmore. This program has been established in order to provide information and incentives to new businesses, therefore making Strathmore a desirable community to do business in. The policy includes incentives such as a ribbon cutting ceremony and a business profile on the Town of Strathmore website. The intent of establishing this new program is to aid in the economic development of the Town of Strathmore.
And your recommendation?
Sorry, Your Worship. Administration is recommending that council adopt this policy.
Is there any questions to administration? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Your Worship, I would move that council approve policy number 6201, new business welcoming policy.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And thank you. And our next one is council by-election 8.9.
Your Worship, at the October 15th council meeting, CEO Stamford informed council that Councillor Rempel had submitted his resignation. Administration is now looking for a resolution from council to formally set the date of the by-election, which administration is recommending December 15th, with an advance vote on December 8th, and nomination day will be November 17th.
We have a recommendation. Is there any questions to administration? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Worship, I move that council hold a by-election on December 15, 2014 in order to fill the vacancy for the position of Councillor 1 for the Town of Strathmore.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Where's my next piece of paper here? Okay. 8.10, Fire Services Agreement. Yes, Councillor, Deputy Mayor Walls.
Your worship, as I am still with rural fire, I'll be declaring conflict.
And show Deputy Mayor Walls.
The door.
The door.
Sorry.
Because they didn't pass the bylaw. Fee for service bylaw, they didn't pass it, it was defeated, so they can't do the agreement.
I'm sorry.
That's why I
Ms.
stayed behind.
Nelson and Chief Mayor. Floor is yours.
Okay, the fee for service bylaw was not passed. We can still do this though, but without the costs.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Okay, so we did have a fee for service bylaw that came forward tonight that included fees for fire service. So just some background, the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County have been working together to replace the current mutual aid agreement with the fire services agreement to bring us more in line with current practices where two or more municipalities may rely on each other for fire services from time to time. Town Council approved the agreement on August 13th, 2014. However, the agreement has not yet been approved by Wheatland County. Administration is requesting council support to conclude our participation in the mutual aid agreement and to replace it with the fire services agreement, thereby ensuring continued service. The town will continue to respond to any requests for fire services, and once the bylaw is passed for fees, we would then charge costs according to the fees bylaw for fire services. There are a number of other municipalities that are parties to the same mutual aid agreement, and administration is recommending that all parties within the agreement be notified that the mutual aid agreement will be replaced with a fire services agreement should they wish to participate. And administration is recommending that council direct administration to draft a letter to all parties within the current mutual aid agreement, informing them of the intent to replace the mutual aid agreement with the fire services agreement, and that the town will continue to assist with any requests for fire services, with costs being calculated as per the fee schedule bylaw when it is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Questions? No questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
I would move that council direct administration to draft a letter to all parties within the current mutual aid agreement informing them of the intent to replace the mutual aid agreement with a fire services agreement, and that the town will continue to assist with any request for fire services with cost being calculated as per the fee schedule bylaw when approved.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Thank you.
And thank you. And 8.11. Councillor, if you give us.
It was appointment to the recreational. I can move it while it's gone.
The only thing is, we don't have that as one of our groups.
Well, I'll defer to Councillor Sobel on policy committee.
And show Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Walls back. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is 8.11 and Councillor Fuel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've only brought this up because I've been asked to be a part of the Regional Recreation Enhancement Committee. And I know that I haven't been officially approved on this committee, so I was just wondering what the procedure was as far as that goes, as far as my being on this committee.
I so move.
Okay, that was difficult.
My question is, we haven't set that up as a committee that we recognize, have we? And so
in terms of,
we wouldn't be able to appoint him to a committee that we don't recognize. And you as a member of council would of course be able to sit on it. It's just that you haven't, we don't have it formalized. If I'm correct.
no terms of reference on that?
Well, that's what we were wondering. We're deferring.
Yeah.
And just speaking out loud, I don't see any problem in regards to getting things in place and appointing you.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Administration?
A recommendation to council would be that council participate on the, first move to participate on the Recreation Enhancement Committee. Once that was done, an appointment to the committee could be made, if council so chooses.
So,
Your Worship, so moved on the,
Whatever she said.
whatever she just said.
Get late, eh?
Your Worship, I guess I would move that the Strathmore Town Council support the participation and appoint Councillor Fuel to that committee. And I guess, Your Worship, to administration, is that what you're looking for? Okay.
that's the motion? Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried, and thank you. Committee reports and department reports. Council committee reports. Can we start with you, Councilor Sobel?
Sure, Your Worship. Start with Strathmore, Alberta 55+ Summer Games. Directors meeting was held on October 29th. We were introduced to our new games coordinator, Jordan Naturkach. Jordan is a welcome addition to the team. Also present at this meeting was Kimberly Sharkey, new manager for the Chinook Credit Union. Ms. Sharkey was at this meeting to demonstrate the credit union's amazing support for the 55+ Summer Games by presenting us with a check of $22,500. A number of housekeeping issues were also discussed, as well as future fundraising activities. The committee was also advised that a change in provincial policy has resulted in Alberta sports now falling under the Ministry for Cultures and Tourism under Minister Maureen Kubinek. All directors provided their reports, and it appears everyone's on target to greet the games in only 8.5 months. A reminder that if anyone is interested in getting more information about the games or how to get involved, you're welcome to stop by the games office located above the Gold Registry's office, and a sign is now present indicating the office's location. Next is the Strathmore Wheatland Addictions Team on October 9th. Although there was no general SWAT meeting that took place in October, a subcommittee meeting dealing with the SWAT signage project was held on the 9th of October. A good discussion was held in regards to keeping the project current, interesting, and informative. We'll continue to have 3 signboards displaying messages, 2 in the town and 1 in the county. Calgary Regional Partnership Transportation Committee. There were 2 Transportation Committee meetings held in October. The first on October 2nd, where submissions from 3 companies interested in being chosen to take on the task of determining how a regionalized transportation system owned and operated by CRP would look like. The second meeting was held on the 24th of October, and this one was dealt with interviewing the prospective companies and determining which one would be recommended for the job. This recommendation will now go forth to the Executive Board for final decision, and both meetings were held in Cochrane. Next is Downtown Revitalization Committee. The committee met on October 21st and reviewed 3 applications with the development officer. An update was received in regards to the proposed new farmers market concept, and discussions continued in regards to future ideas designed to enhance our downtown area. Finally, the Council Policy Review Committee meeting was held on October 15th to discuss 3 potential policies, which is the new business welcoming policy and procedure, appointment of members of council, administration, and citizens to committees, and council procedural policy. This meeting allowed for a number of issues to be discussed and changed prior to having it come before council for discussion and possible decision. And obviously we missed one. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Blockman.
Thank you, Your Worship. October 6th, attended a Wadumsa meeting. Councillor Peterson, were you at that one?
Yes.
Oh, okay, you want to read your report?
No, you go
I
ahead.
couldn't, no, I couldn't remember if you were there or
You
not.
got it.
I'll read it and you can add if you
Yeah,
want.
sorry.
Our AGM was held prior to the regular meeting. Discussion evolved over fire dispatch requisitions at $2 per capita. New system in place with 911 call fees regarding cell phones, which will put in $30,000 every quarter, which also replaces the Alberta Health Services contract allocations previously. 2013, they had a total of 3,061 calls. So far in 2014, we're at 2,477 calls, which is a 4.5% increase. Wademsa has rented an industrial bay in town for the spare ambulance on a 2-year lease, and a new ambulance is set to arrive here October. I guess it should be here by now. There are some provincial problems now with branding on the new ambulance, as it can't exceed a certain percentage of the body, which is going to be a problem because we want the new one to look the same as the ones we got. That's it for Wademsa. Chamber of Commerce, I attended 4 meetings in the last month. The Chamber of Commerce is undergoing a branding image change in Strathmore and district, and at present are developing a business plan with 3 mandates. 1, to retire the debt, 2, to increase membership, and 3, to be more involved in the town and the district. We have 2 new board members, and they include Jill Crosland and Pam Campbell. Pam is the marketing executive for Eagle Radio. She's also the new president. With these new members comes a lot of new blood, new ideas, new interest, and hopefully a bunch of new ideas. And I attended the Handy Bus meeting on October 20th. Our new Dodge van is here and it's in use. It has the new wide 34-inch door on it, so the wider wheelchairs are more accessible. Our strong financials continue. Our final board association policies are ready for approval. All our drivers are now equipped and have received high visibility jackets, so they're easily recognized by our clients. We did 557 trips in September. 90% of those are disabled. Board is to continue to work on a strategic plan in 2015 to gain information to make future sustainable decisions. And our December meeting after our November meeting is going to be a Christmas food fest for this board, because we are a very close-knit board and we get along quite well. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilor Baldwin. Deputy Mayor Walls?
Your Worship, there was no financial audit committee meeting, and as we were having budget meeting on November 30th, there was no housing meeting, and then the other meeting, I believe, Councilor Field, was canceled, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been put off till later in the month.
We tried to have a meeting, however, there wasn't quorum, so it's been put off to the end of the month.
Thank you. Nothing further to report. Councilor Field?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just echo Councillor Wall's comments. The efficiency meeting was scheduled on October 30th, and we had our fall budget workshop starting that night. And the next meeting is later in the month. The youth club board meeting was going to be held yesterday, but the meeting was postponed because the board visioning report that we worked through a visioning process on a Saturday, and that report has not been sent to us yet, so we delayed that meeting. The youth club fundraising committee met, and we are just finalizing plans for the New Year's gala. Caterer is booked, band is booked, tickets are expected any time now. And downtown board, I did not attend, I did not make that meeting. And yesterday, November 4th, the Regional Recreation Enhancement Committee met. I just wanted to let you know a few things. The county has put 3 county councillors on the committee, and they're the ones whose districts border us. They have also, the county also voted to put in $40,000 for a Strathmore Wheatland County needs assessment. It will be in addition to the Strathmore needs assessment that was done because we want to be encompassing with the county. The board is also going to be approaching this council to see if we are able to apply for the ACP grant, which I don't know a great deal about, but one of the deadlines is November 30th, and the county is, I guess they have 5 projects on the go through this system, so they can't apply, but they are willing to put together the grant application for us if we list ourselves as the applicant. So this is something I'll be talking to the administration more about.
Yes, on the three grants. On the three grants you mentioned in your email, I referred it to Mel. Mel took a look at it. They're small grants, but he's going to see if it's possible or feasible.
Okay. That's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. And Councilor Peterson.
So Strathmore Library is continues to be a tremendously exciting place to be. And one of the things that I would like to note is that of all the libraries in our region, Strathmore Library was one of two to show a significant cardholder increase. Canmore showed a 1.7 increase and Strathmore nearly a 4% increase. And so it's really commendable and their statistics are excellent. They have started a forever reading program designed for children 5 years and up where they can come in and read to a dog and the dog Akiko has been approved. Dogs are apparently non-judgmental. And I'll definitely be recommending that Chuckles maybe could go in there too. They might have to change the forever part of it, but I think he'd be a great candidate and probably would be non-judgmental too. They also hosted or are in the process of hosting a library bingo contest. I encourage you to check it out. It's wonderful. One of the most exciting things, both with Marigold, under Marigold and the track system in Alberta, the ME Libraries is now live, meaning that Alberta-wide borrowing is everywhere with the exception of e-resources. So if you're in Edmonton for the weekend or in Canmore, you can take your Strathmore Library card and you can sign out books wherever you want in our province. And so that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And SRAC had a very successful art walk this year in spite of tremendous challenges with weather. And their concert was not well attended on the Friday night, but there were some hardy souls that did come. The good news in all of this is that we had support from community, from the Wheatland Kings, who you remember came here and said that they would do help in kind, and they were really terrific. And Councillor Sobel and Linda Nelson and people that gave endless amounts of time and moved everything up to the Ag grounds. And so thank you to the Ag Society. And they were able to carry off the day, and it was well attended. They made a little bit of money, got tremendous cooperation from all the groups that were currently up there, including the farmers market. So they have some things that they will change in the future. For instance, we're looking at holding an indoor event. We're finding that we have no stomach left for end of September, but we do have to hold it during culture days. So we'll continue to do that. But we were sure impressed with the artists that came out this year and the support from the community on a very nasty day. And as usual, Tracy's group was instrumental in carrying that off. And so many thanks. And that's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I guess that leaves me. I attended Canadian Community Futures Wild Rose October 2nd, and they advanced a loan in excess of $225,000 because they're only permitted to do $150,000. They advanced $150,000 and shared the balance of it with Alberta Financial Services. And they presented information to the board in regards to sustainability and succession for their organization. And for our next meeting, which is tomorrow night, Western Diversification Representative will attend the CFWR board meeting. And I also attended a Strathmore Assembly of Youth, and a copy of that report is in the agenda items. And I'm trying to do two things at once, and I'm not good at that. The students brought forward an interesting and challenging discussion on the budget process for the town of Strathmore, and information was provided by Deputy Mayor Fuel at that time and myself regarding the process and difficulty in prioritizing it to keep a tax increase to the smallest amount possible. And I'll say the youth in this town in regards to challenging the members of council is humbling. They're very good. They also discussed changing the town bylaw, allowing various species as pets within the town limits. Information was discussed regarding the need to keep in mind the town as a whole, not just the desire of a small group, and the concern of an animal to human disease spreading. I also attended Museum Committee meeting on October the 15th. It was an afternoon session, and not all members from the museum could attend. And it was a strategic plan that was facilitated by Community Futures Wild Rose. And discussions included drafting a vision, a mission for the museum, and SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And history of the museum idea was presented and where we are today. The group discussed important values the museum should keep in mind, and a report on the strategic plan will be presented to the board at the first available meeting. And I hope that's all of the reports that I wrote up. And administration.
Yes, I have a good economic development report tonight. On single family this year, so far is 38, which is double last year. And we feel by Christmas time, we're going to hit 50. So anyway, that part's very positive. Our building permits are 10 million higher this year than last year at this time. It's interesting that most of the houses being built are 2-story by far. 9 million and bungalows 1 million. And then there's been quite a few duplexes and all, which are not included. I just include the single family. So anyway, it's a way better year than we've had. And the coming year will be better yet.
Way to go.
And a motion to accept the reports.
Move to accept the committee reports, Your Worship.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Questions between councils or to administration? Deputy Mayor Wells?
Your Worship, to Dr. Stanford, there's been some reports, and maybe you could do a little clarification regarding why are some of our crews are out clearing the snow off the streets, which is going to melt. Maybe you can elaborate on that, because I've been getting a few calls on that, Dr. Stanford.
That's always a really hard one. We get lots of calls saying, get the streets done. The quicker, the better. Get onto it. And then we get a few people saying, don't clean them, and snow's going to melt by the end of the week. Tomorrow's supposed to be what, 12 degrees? It's hard. Jess and his crew try to get it done as fast as they can and try to do the worst areas. So it's just one of those things. The majority of the people want it cleaned.
Just on further on that, I'm going to assume that there's no contracted services for that at this point. So this is all in-house, so it's all our town people. And I'm going to also assume, and believe it or not, I've seen comments to this effect around, that if there's no snow there, our crews are not going to clean the snow.
Correct.
Just want to clarify that.
On to another topic, though. Two things. One is in regards to tree limbs and branches that have. Where are we sitting? Where's our public works sitting in regards to cleaning up branches and trees that were falling?
They're going to continue doing that anytime a snowstorm comes, it becomes priority. But they'll jump back now shortly and start getting the rest of the branches.
Thank you. If I could have one more, Your Worship, over the last couple, 2.5 months or so, Council has seen a number of policies brought to us, some of them new, some of them with great amendments. And I just want to express my appreciation to Jen Sawatsky for the very, very hard work. And there were some of these policies that have been wanting to be amended for literally years, and she's taken it by the horn and really done a marvelous job on it. So just I want to thank her for everything she's done for that.
Thanks.
Councilor Peterson?
I just have a question for clarification to administration, Your Worship. And we talked a bit about putting forward a grant to the seniors. And I just wondered if that's something that's left in the hands of administration? To the new
Linda,
senior
do you have a
council?
comment?
Yeah, we would have to.
Yeah. We would have to put it into the budget under councils. There is a line where council can award grants to certain community groups.
And could that happen? Because I don't think it's there. I think it was an oversight and it wasn't there.
Absolutely.
Councillor Sobel.
Just a question, would they not just apply to us under that grant
We
application?
we talked about how to do that because this is the onset of this
Yeah.
committee and if council's desire to support them
Yeah.
and then from then on, they would act in that regard, yes. That they would have to bring it forth as a proposal, but I'm willing to to work under that as long as they have direction, Councillor Sobel. That's my concern.
Well, I guess it's to administration, and as I read that policy, if they submitted an application for some grant, for some funding, would that not?
But they would require some direction around that at this onset of this committee, this new committee. Would need some help from administration.
Yes, and I believe there's a meeting set up for tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So.
And I understand that someone from administration will be attending along with FCSS as
Yes.
appointed.
Yes,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Okay. Further questions?
I have another question.
Please.
So being new to council, once in a very shocking way that the fees bylaw has been voted down, is there opportunity then to bring this back? Because it impacts many, many things. I just would like an education on that.
Your Worship, definitely administration can bring back the fees bylaw. It would have to be drafted into a new amending bylaw, though.
Councillor Fuel?
As an addition to that comment by Councillor Peterson, one of the things that was brought up yesterday in a very positive light, we were congratulated, and there were some positives that came to us from county councillors that we had tried to do away with the differing fees, and they were hopeful and optimistic that that would happen, but obviously that didn't. But I just wanted to let you know that the county councillors were very impressed that we were trying to do this.
Nothing further? And I just have one item, and it's an item of possible thinking, something that was brought to me in regards to, with the co-op store moving in the near future, if somebody was to come up with an idea like such as a grocery truck, where they would have fresh fruits and vegetables, possibly dairy, and I don't know exactly what all would be in a grocery truck, that would go into the different areas and maybe park for an hour or two, once, twice, 3 times a week, those kinds of things, to be able to provide a service to some of the residents. Would we need to do a bylaw? Would we need to worry about anything along that line? Just a business. Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
They would just need a business license.
They would just need a business
Yes,
license.
that's
Okay.
all.
Okay, good. That was,
One more thing.
oh, Councillor Peterson.
I'm still on bylaws and fees. So I guess this really concerns me because it leaves us in a situation where there was some consensus. There was a decision in the first 2 readings of the bylaw. And now I'm wondering, in a timely fashion, what will now happen to Tracy's department in terms of recreation, in terms of fees, because I'm assuming that those are being laid out at this point. And so I guess my question is to Councillor Walls as to, being that he was the one who brought that amendment forward, and now, how we would move forward on that, and how he sees that evolving or devolving.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess the only reason I chose to vote against that motion was because I was hoping for an easier process for dealing with the grave sites. And I understand it's a cost savings, and we're just directly passing that cost back on to those people. However, maybe there's a better system that we can look at. I was 100% prepared to pass that with that exception. I guess if I would have stated we could have removed that portion, I was prepared to pass the bylaw because I too support removing the fees. And I understand it's very tough for administration to do their job with no fees. But I am prepared to re-debate that issue. However, I'm still very stuck on trying to streamline the grave process. And I want to say too that I really appreciate all the work administration put into that and the education. I'm just trying to make it easier for people when they're dealing with that difficult situation.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree, Councillor Walls. It is a grave situation.
Oh.
And so, I have lots of ideas around that I think we should discuss. And I certainly did take your concerns from our last discussion on fees very seriously. And I think that there are some, but if you, being someone who was on the winning side, would be prepared to bring that back now with that exception, I think it would be a timely thing to do.
Interesting.
I'm on the same page on that one with the cemetery, but after carefully thinking about stuff here for the last month, I can't get myself to get it right in my head that these out of town fees for the arena, I can't agree with that.
The only thing, is there more discussion?
Yes, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Yeah, Your Worship, I guess I'm looking for some clarification from council. Would council, with the removal of that portion of the bylaw, would council entertain that coming back for next council meeting?
What's wrong with the press?
Removal of the grave portion of the bylaw.
Do it now.
I don't know whether or not we're allowed to do it right now. And the administration, what I need is some clarity.
Back to the next meeting.
Well, what I need to know is, because we're revisiting that same motion, do we need, first of all, to have a motion that we will revisit it before the 6 months are up? Yes, okay, so we just have to make sure we do the procedure properly.
Yes.
Councilor Peterson.
Is there anything preventing us from doing it now? There's nothing preventing us from doing it now.
Okay.
We've already debated it. We know this is a new topic that's given more consideration. There's nothing stopping us from bringing it back at this time.
Good. So, Councilor Walls, if you want to make a motion in regards to, we'll need two. Which do we have to do first? Is it a motion in regards to revisiting it in less than 6 months?
Yes.
But it's at the same meeting. And I think it's in this policy that we just approved.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that we follow that policy.
Worship, may we ask for a 5-minute adjournment?
5-minute adjournment, please.
Or recess, whatever.
5-minute recess, 5-minute adjournment.
For the comfort of
Do I need-
Over here.
Let's make sure we're doing this right.
Do we need a motion to adjourn or have a
No.
recess?
No.
Okay. Okay, we're just doing that. We'll make sure that we've got the procedure. What? Which one? This one? Oh, yeah.
It's a long sit.
Well, we have And I will call the session back in order.
Your worship, I would move that council reconsider the motion 6.3 Town of Strathmore Fee Bylaw Amendment Bylaw number 14-18.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's passed. Now I need a
Your
motion.
worship, I would move third and final reading of bylaw 14-18.
Town of Strathmore Fees Bylaw.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Yes, your worship, again, I cannot support this bylaw as it sits because I'd like administration to spend a little bit more time regarding the cemetery bylaw, because what doesn't make sense to me is we still have a backhoe charge, whether it's a schnook outside, for example, if someone passes away right now. I understand it's not them dealing with it. However, there's still a backhoe charge right now is the same as there is in the summer. So I'm hoping maybe to streamline that cost, not streamline the cost, but just make one line cost so it costs the person or the family or the funeral home or whoever one cost to get that opened and closed. That being said, your worship, I would move to amend bylaw 14-18 to remove Schedule J cemetery.
Now I have the motion on the floor. And I have a caution. And the caution that I have is if he removes the cemetery fee, our cemetery fee is going to be free. No. Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So I have a motion to amend on the floor. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Now I will go back to the motion to the give third and final reading to the amended bylaw 14-18. Any discussion?
Your worship, if I may, I think this is a very important piece. Sorry.
Keep going.
Sorry, worship. Just take over here on you. Sorry. Your worship, I think this is a very important piece in starting to rebuild relationships with our partners in the area by us removing the fees. And I understand there's some cost that the taxpayers, our resident taxpayers pay. And I understand we are getting it, we're basically paying twice. Saying that though, I think we receive some economic benefit from them using our services. So I'm prepared to support the bylaw with the removal of Schedule J.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No? No? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I will run the risk of asking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have everything? Oh, council invitations. There is one more.
Oh, there.
That's why I said I'd run the risk. 12.1, council invitations, please. Deputy Mayor Wells.
Your worship, the Strathmore Lions Club would like to thank the community for their support over the past 76 years. We appreciate the time and dedication the volunteers gave us throughout those many years. Without the donation and support of the community, we would not be able to provide our services as thoroughly as we do year after year. At this time, we are inviting all to join us for a free evening on us, November 6, 2014, from 6:30 p.m. till 10 p.m. for an open house at the Strathmore Golf Course. We'd also like to invite anyone interested in joining interested in volunteering for the Lions Club to please join us. And we look forward to seeing everyone there. It's a come and go type event. Would really encourage council, even if you have a few minutes, to stop in and really see the good work the Strathmore Lions Club does for our community. So hopefully see you there tomorrow night, 6:30 to 10, November 6th.
Nothing further on the agenda? No? Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Sorry. Okay, so moved. All in favor? Carried. Get to go home.
Councilor Peel.